Okay, so we are sat in a 2010 Honda Jazz, Fit, whatever you want to call it, and we have a mirror problem. So on this side, the folding mechanism works fine. Happy days. But on this side, nothing. So I have had that mirror off and went through the fun of dismantling it to find out that I believe the motor is dead. So I did order a new motor from Temu for £7.50 and it has now arrived. So I now go through the process of getting that mirror off of the car again, disassembling it, reassembling it and putting it back on. Now, to get the door panel off, there is a screw in here and there's also a screw behind here. So this trim section has to come out, which I'll show in process, and then this door panel has to come off, and behind here there is a little plastic electrical plug that needs to be disconnected. Then I have a little clip that plugs through the metalwork which holds the wiring loom up to the door panel. So we'll go through that in a second and show you how that all comes off. Okay, so your first step is to remove that little screw just in there, which is the reason why I have a little Phillips or posi drive screwdriver. I found taking this plastic trim off here a bit of a pain, but what I did find was that when I put effort around here, you might have seen when I pushed that in a little gap opening up, and that allowed me to get my fingers in here, and I can then tease that cover off. Once you start teasing this off, there's a clip there that tucks in, sort of does that, pushes that way. So if you can bend this back round, you've suddenly got access to this a lot easier, and then gradually you can start getting this thing off. Oh, there you go, it comes off in pretty suddenly when it does come off. So there's our second little screw just in there. So once that one's in, there's no screws left in getting this panel off. So we'll do that now. I don't know if you can see it. You can see the clips sort of down here and also here. But I found if I put pressure on here and put that in there, it was just enough to pop the whole panel. So the whole panel is now pretty much floating in the breeze, which means I can now take that off. Now this clip here, on this blanking plug, I found this little flat bladed screwdriver was just good enough to get under here and use this as the lever to pull it off. Obviously you've got to bear in mind you've got sharp metal on there, so you don't want to end up scraping the paint off, but it was just enough to lift this up. Now, as this has been off before, I've broken it, so there's a little plastic clip there which should have gone in up here. So mine comes off a lot easier now, but I'm not going to worry about it. As I say, it's an old car, but as you can see there's a screw there that has to come out, and those three nuts need to come off. Now we won't do those just yet because we need to disconnect the wiring loom here and pull it out of here carefully, and then by removing those we can take the mirror off. If we remove those now, it means the mirror will be hanging down and bashing against the door, well, before we can try and get the loom out of here. So that'll be my next job, to separate that clip and get the wire out. Okay, so all is now revealed. There is our little multi-plug which we have to separate. There's a little tang in there which you have to compress before you can pull that off. If you try and just pull it off without doing that, you're going to bugger up this. And down here there's a little spring clip which goes around this loom coming down here before it heads off up to here. So I will now just separate that. I don't know if I can do it with my finger, might not. I don't have any nails. Oh yeah, there we go. That was happy days, that was easy. And I don't know if I can just push this in carefully. Get a pair of pliers, it might do it easier. Yeah, we're going to have to, I think, either find another way of compressing that, but it will, once it goes very quick. You can hear it clipping. There we go. That's now gone, and we're using a finger as a special tool. We should now be able to push that out, he says. There we go. That's now gone. So now we can pull that out of here. It is. It's proof it does come through that hole. Now, you'll probably have to use, well, I didn't say, you probably have to use both hands to help guide this up, because there's several little snagging points that will delay it, but by, as I say, jiggling it a bit, it does come out through that hole. So my next step is to undo that screw and take those 3 nuts off, and then the mirror will be free. Yay! Alright, so here's all the gubbins, all the screws and various bits and pieces. So we have everything that needs to attach the mirror to the car in the cup holder. So anything we do inside with the mirror now, we know that all our fixings for the car are in there, not anywhere else. So we've taken all the nuts off and the screw, and this should now pretty much lift straight off with any luck. So there we go, one mirror in our hand, and we can now go inside and dismantle it all. There we go. We are now in the dry, and we can move on to the next phase, which is taking the mirror glass out, and it looks harder than it is. And then we can disassemble the plastic cover that goes around the outside. There's a screw down there at the bottom which needs to come off, and then we can physically try and manhandle the unit out to get the motor out. But first things first, let's make a coffee. Okay, so here we have a nice cup of coffee. So we're all set up, ready to go. So what we've got to do here, we've got to get this mirror glass out of there, which is not too bad. In essence, you just push it there, pull your fingers under there and pull, and it'll release on 2 clips down there, but we'll look at that in a second. Now we've got to get this cover off here. You can see it's had a bit of fair wear and tear, a few scrapes down in hedges and people walking into it, etc. There's also this rubber clip has to come off, rubber grommet more than anything has to come off there. There's also a screw under here somewhere, there it is, just there. There's some screws under here that need to come off as well. So there's a few things to get to, but first things first, I'm going to have a sip of coffee and then we'll take the glass out. Okay, so to get this out, we push in the top here. It's got like a ratchet kind of thing. You go click, 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 click. And then what you do then is you get your fingers under here. Now I've already loosened this one, so it will pull up. Basically, it'll go clink, and then it should come free. Now don't pull it away straight away, because behind here there's a couple of little delicate little pins that operate the demister. So those need to come off first. And if you're in doubt in doing any of these, take some photos of it before you take it apart. Now this is just a resistance thing, so as far as I'm aware, it doesn't matter which way round these go back on, so we don't need to worry about them. I think the thing with Japanese electrics, if there's anything that needs to go back a certain way, there's usually like a multifunction plug that will only go in one way. These I've never really worried about. I've just put them back on in whichever format they seem to come off. So happy days. There's the mirror glass. We'll put that to one side so we don't smack that up. And what I'll do now is I'll take this cover off here. It should just come straight off like that. There's a natural cut in it. Now you may find yours has got like a bit of tape on there. I had to cut the tape on mine first because obviously the ease of use putting it on, it's just flipped over and then taped on. So that does that, and we can see behind here, not a lot. We don't actually have to do much with that. The next bit we need to get to is down here. I don't know if we can see it. There's a little hole, and we can put our little screwdriver in there, and hopefully we can lever that off. I'm not sure if I can do that while holding my phone, but let's see if we can get in there. Yep. Is that going to cooperate? I think I'm going to have to put this in my lap, I'm afraid. So let's pop it in there. There we go. There's no great resistance to it. It'll come off. And then we can see there's another 3 screws in there. Now I won't take those out yet because this will all go floppy between that and that. So what we'll do now is we'll look at getting this plastic cover off. So I don't think you can see it, but there's little tangs that sort of like up here, which if we use our little screwdriver we should be able to push and then try and take this off carefully. This is quite brittle plastic, so don't be too tempted to brutalize it, otherwise you could end up with pieces, and that's not what we want. So how well we can see this, but down in here you can see there's sort of grey plastic tang, and those have to be sort of compressed to sort of spring them out. And there's another one that's hidden up there. And then gradually you can sort of start teasing this off. You can see that I'm sort of getting a gap here. So I'll carry on going and ease that off. I say the word ease, so be careful, because there are clips sort of all around this thing, and you don't want to be breaking any of those off, because it's, once you broke them, they're broken, and that bit of plastic is then kind of knackered. So there we go, we've now got this off, and if we look carefully you can see that there are these little clips that slot through the plastic and latch on to the main body. Now obviously this one's been off a couple of times, so I have lost one here. So that just shows you that they're kind of brittle. If you just try to yank that off and broke all those off, you'd be in real queer street. And if we look at the mirror, you can kind of see where those little tangs hook into. There's another one there, and there's some down the bottom there as well. So from the inside, you kind of using a screwdriver to delicately compress those back or in. Now for this thing, there are two crosshead screws, one there and another one up there. And then this unit, it won't come away, but it will be loose, because you'll need that loose in order to get to this corner here where the motor is situated. And that will also need to get to the screw under here and the 3 screws under there, which hold this part to this part. Important thing before pulling things apart is this little indicator here. Now if your wing mirror has an indicator on it, you will need to take this little plug off. Be careful of this when putting it back on, because there are very, very tiny little pins in there, so you'll have to be careful doing that. Now to get that off, there's a push-up tang the other side, and you just use your 2 fingers, and that should, in theory, come off. You're going to have to push it a bit further. There we go. So that's off. As you can see, it's a tiny little clip. I've had to replace one of these indicators once, and it pushed the clip to one side, a little pin to one side, so I had to straighten the pin out and push it back on. It works all right, but a lot easier if you get it right the first time. So that's got that out. What I've also undone is the 3 screws that went into the bracket which mounts the mirror to the door. There's the bracket there, so you can see there's the holes underneath where the 3 screws come from. All the screws are over there. I've also teased the cable through a little bit, which gives me a bit of slack, so that I can now try and get this motor housing out. There we go. We've got the unit out. That wasn't quite as easy as it was the first time in there. Now these have little clips that hold the motor housing in, and they are very, very brittle, and I think I've broken all of them, which is a pain, but as the thing's held in such a tight, cramped component area, I'm not worried about it. So I'm going to pull that cover off in a second, and then we'll have a look inside. Right, so having teased this cover off, and you can see that the clip's broken, I've twisted this 90 degrees sideways so I can actually see it. There's obviously the motor, and this is a little circuit board that drives it. Now that should pull out. It's got 2 little clips that slot into apertures on that motor. So this board should be free to come out. Treat it delicately if you can. There's a little wire that goes down in there. There we go. That's come out. Now down the bottom, you can't quite see it. There's 2 screws. They need to come out, and then we can take out this whole motor and plastic assembly, and you'll see all the gear wheels and gubbins at the bottom of that. Okay, we have fought our way in to the little labyrinth that is the internal workings of this folding mirror. So basically there's a little drive pinion wheel down there. See if I can heighten that up a bit. There we go. You've got this worm drive which then turns this around, which makes your mirror rotate. Now this top mounting you can't pull off because the wires go through here out to the various bits and pieces in your mirror. So this is about as far as you can get with it. But this motor here, there's two little screws that hold the motor on, and that is it. I don't know if I can get a better angle. Oh yeah, there we go. So you can see that once you take those off, you can then put the new one on. So those are pretty easy to get off with a small screwdriver. Okay, so here we have the motor against the new one and the old one. Now you'll notice the two slots there, they are for the circuit board to plug into, so they're in the right place. The amount of end on the motors looks to be about the same, and if I spin that round, I'll stick together because the magnets are in the same direction. We appear to have the same amount projecting out the other end. Now this motor has a flat on it, as does this one, which is important because something's got to drive that gear wheel round inside the mirror. So if we look at these on end, you'll see some mounting holes, and on this one should be the same. So as long as the screw I've got fits that okay, we should be all right. Now I do have to make a little admission here. I did need a smaller Phillips screwdriver to actually do this because the one I had was too big. Those are the mounting screws there, so make sure you don't lose those. Now inside the actual mounting, if I can show it, there is a little metal plate, and that can fall out, so don't lose that. And down in the actual gubbins, all the the mechanical bits, these, if you tip the mirror upside down, will probably fall out as well. So just be aware of that. Now I might apply a little bit more grease into there just to keep things happy. The actual gear wheel itself looks to be okay, as does the drive gear. So as I say, it was working, and the motor was just basically not doing anything. The motor was just jittering. Now what I did do with the new one before I disassembled everything was to write a letter on it, or some identifier, so that I know that this is the new one and this is the old one, because the last thing I want to do is put the old one back in and have the new one sat on the table. So simple things, but makes all the difference. So we pop the motor in, but one small thing, but very important, which when I was disassembling it the first time around and I got wrong when I put the motor back in, is that the two little apertures where the circuit board plugs in need to face inboard. First time I put the motor in, I put it around 180 degrees out, so they were facing out that way. So I had to take it all apart again in there, take the motor off and put it back on again. So small details, but very important. So make sure if you're doing this, you don't make the same mistake I did. Well, there we go. It's all back together. As I say, it's all straightforward stuff. Just take it gently and go about things step by step. Putting the glass back in, it has two clips which sort of, you've got a mirror goes in that way and then tilts up, and then you press down here for the two clips at the bottom to snap in over a lug behind on that sort of mounting plate. The cover is a case of offering it up and gently snapping it together, but in doing so make sure that these ends come in, because these being separate, it's easy for one to be outside, and then if it's outside you've got to try and get the thing back in, which is a bit of a delicate procedure. Snapping things are always sort of halfway houses really. They're not quite perfect, so they don't go in as easy as they look. But other than that, we're now ready to pop this back on the car and give it a try. And I say, if it works, happy days. If it doesn't work, yeah, yaboo sucks. Okay, so I've just loosely hung the mirror on by a nut to stop it from falling off. I'm in the process of reassembly. I've got to reconnect this wiring clip up, put the door panel back on, put a screw in there, put a screw in there, put the trim on there, and then fire it up and see what happens. But I'm not going to video that because there's no point. You saw me taking the thing apart, and reassembly is the same as disassembly, except in reverse, as a Hayes manual once said. Okay, so we're all reassembled. So let's give it a try. We've got the ignition on. We've got that mirror in its drive position. So let's press the button and see what happens. Yay! Of course it was going to blooming work. How long it works for is another matter, but hey ho, job done. Well, thankfully that job ended in success. As you've seen, the mirror now works, and all for the sake of this little motor here, which in essence died. Now, I kind of cheated because I already knew that this motor was defective, but what I didn't know was whether the one that came from China via Temu, my first purchase with them, would actually arrive, and if it did, whether it would actually work. Now, delivery on that was supposed to be Friday last week, so I wasn't expecting it to arrive straight away or on time, and it didn't. It arrived today, which is the following Wednesday. So even so, it's not bad. It went straight in. It was a direct replacement, which was handy, and it only cost me £7.50, including the postage. So that was a bargain. Now, whether or not that bargain lasts a long time remains to be seen, but it came in a fairly decent package. Obviously I ripped the package to get the motor out, but I'm guessing it must be typical across quite a few other makes or models of car. I don't know. The only thing you get on the back is says long service life, whatever that means, and it's made in somewhere Shenzhen City, Guangdong province, which probably is where the original manufacturer one comes from. But either way, I'm happy. I've done the job. It took me an hour or so to do it, and hopefully it might be of help to other people. Your car may be different. If you've got a model number, even if it's just a few months different, it may be different, but you have to find out what's wrong first before you can go and order pieces. And I say, I knew this motor was already defective. If it wasn't that, it was potentially something in the mechanism. I've seen people who've had shattered drive mechanisms and replaced those successfully. This one was a bit of an oddity. I looked on YouTube and couldn't find anything about the drive motor. And this one, when I was actually sparking it up, it was flashing. You could see it through the plastic, through the electrodes there, so I knew something wasn't right. It didn't want to work. So, yeah, happy days. So, with that, cheerio for now.